Welcome everyone to the PIM Annual Research Conference 2021. To commence today's proceedings, please rise for the PIM Anthem.
ජයවර්ධනපුර විදුජය සරසවි පද්ම තටාකේ විකසිත පියුම ඔබයි පින්බර අප විද්‍යා භූමි කිතු ගොස දස දෙස වීලා මොරණේවා ජය දඩ බන්නා පින්බර අප විද්‍යා භූමි විදුජය සරසවි පද්ම තටාකේ විකසිත පියුම ඔබයි පින්බර අප විද්‍යා භූමි සලසන නව්‍ය තාක්ෂණ විදුරුවන් කිරණ නොමින් පෙරාගෙන දියුණුව සලසන නව්‍ය තාක්ෂණ විදුරුවන් කිරණ නොමින් පෙරාගෙන මානව සමගුණ නිසි ලෙස යොදවන කළමනාකරන විදුනෙම වඩවන සවිවරමින් නැනගුණ රන්දන ජය මඟ පාදන නියමුනිකේතන සවිවරමින් නැනගුණ රන්දන ජය මඟ පාදන නියමුනිකේතන සිරිලක සිරිසර මල් පල ගන්වන විදුබිම නන්දන කරනෙමු වන්දන ජයවර්ධනපුර විදුජය සරසවි පද්ම තටාකේ විකසිත පියුම ඔබයි පින්බර අප විද්‍යා භූමි විදු ගොස දස දෙස වීදා මොරණේවා ජය දඩ බන්නා පින්බර අප විද්‍යා භූමි
Distinguished members of the head table, all of those who are gathered here physically and present at PIM today, and those who are joining us virtually online. Ayubowan, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter which beautiful part of the world you may be joining us from today. And once again, welcome to the PIM Annual Research Conference 2021. The unforeseen, unprecedented pandemic truly threw our nation, our world, the global business landscape into chaos. This meant that all of us need to unlearn, relearn what we knew before. Hence, as the nation's management mentor, PIM continues to contribute to the creation of new knowledge to help business leaders, business decision makers adopt, adapt, and improve in this new, uncertain, dynamic business world. As an endeavor of this, we are proudly gathered here today for yet another milestone of PIM, which is none other than the PIM Annual Research Conference. I'm Tharandu Amarasekara. I will be your host this morning. And to continue with the proceedings of today, we have with us a very special individual who will be delivering the welcome address, who is none other than Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri. Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri has a rare combination of being a chartered manager, chartered HR professional, and a chartered electrical engineer. He is acclaimed as a conference speaker, trainer, strategy consultant, author, and an academic. He is an adjunct professor at the Price College of Business, University of Oklahoma. He was also the editor of the pioneering Sri Lankan Journal of Management. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to deliver the welcome address, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri.
Thank you, Taridu. Aibowan, may you all have long life with good health and grand happiness. It gives me immense pleasure to be in front of you to give the address of welcome. So may I warmly welcome Senior Professor Sudantha Liyanage, the Vice Chancellor of University of Sri Jayawardenepura, the largest university in Sri Lanka in terms of student numbers. Sir, you being the patriarch of our entire system, we are a vital part of that, the pond where we are the blossomed lotus as we sang the Pim Anthem. You being with us gives us inspiration, encouragement for us to continue our worthy endeavors. So it gives me a pleasure to recollect how we started the Student Research Day 6 years ago, showcasing the research of PIM MBA students. And then we added another dimension by starting a doctoral colloquium 5 years ago. And 2 years ago, we combined the two in calling it PIMARC, PIM Annual Research Conference. So we started with PIMARC 2019, and today we are having the second continuous improvement journey with PIMARC 2021, with the apt theme reflecting reality through research. So may I warmly welcome the presence of Professor Nimal, who is the dynamic dean of the largest management faculty in Sri Lanka. Thank you, Professor Nimal, for being with us. And he's a product of PIM, being an MBA of PIM, and also serving as an ex officio member in the Board of Management of Postgraduate Institute of Management. Thank you, Professor Nimal, for your valued presence. And let me recognize my worthy successor, Dr. Senaka Kalum Gamage. In fact, the happiest experience of a leader is to see the successor doing even better. Successor continuing the success, sustaining the success in doing things better. So I have that happiness, and I'm very happy to be part of that vibrant, continuous improvement process. In fact, PIM is a family, and we are very happy to call ourselves PIM family. So it's a family affair. We all get together and we do things together. So let me recognize the presence of my co-chairperson, Dr. Nilakshi Galahitiava. Together, we had to do a lot of synergy, a lot of collaboration, a lot of committed work with our PIM family. So let me recognize the presence of the two executives who are stalwarts in running the administrative show. Doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Mr. Maitri Ratna, the Deputy Bursar, and Mr. Jayant Ranapura, the Senior Assistant Registrar. And also the dynamic faculty, including Senior Professor Jayant Vijayaratna, being the former Vice Chancellor of Kelaniya University, and Dr. Travis Pereira, and all my faculty colleagues. Thank you very much for being here, and I would like to extend a warm welcome for your continuous deliberation throughout today and tomorrow evening. And also, I can see the vibrant presence of PIM staff who are a live wire of the whole event as the PIM family. So thank you very much for being here, be it IT, be it administration, be it all sort of support services. We have made it together. So we are passing through a pandemic time. So we are battling with COVID-19. So the research has become more critical than any other time before, because we need to reflect the reality through research. We need to look at what's going on. It's all about research, having a fresh, novel, uncommon search. In fact, it reminds me what Albert St. Georgi, a Hungarian physicist, said. He said, research is to see what everyone else has seen and to think what nobody else has done. Seeing what everyone else has seen, but think what nobody else has done. That is the power of research. That's the beauty of research. That's the versatility of research. So we are going to deliberate a lot of things today. And let me recognize the vibrant presence of Professor Robert Pfaff. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And you have connected sharp on time from Australia. And being the professor of finance at the Bond Business School of Bond University, Australia, your presence gives us an inspiration and the conviction that we have created a dynamic bond between PIM and the Bond University in Australia. And also let me welcome those who have joined us virtually, particularly Professor Vasantha Pereira and Professor Atula Manavadu, who were playing a key role in bringing the pitching competition to Sri Lanka and to have the first ever pitching competition organized by PIM. So PIM had been in the pioneer of many endeavors. So we add one feather to that illustrious cap by having the first ever pitching competition among the state institutions, higher education students in Sri Lanka. So we would witness that after the inauguration, and I hope it will be a red letter day for the whole country, because we would be selecting the Sri Lankan winner of the pitching competition, who would be going to the global scene, and I hope they would, he or she would carry the Sri Lankan flag high. So once again, let me offer a warm welcome to all of you, particularly those who are virtually connected. I can see Dr. Trevor Mendes far away from New Zealand, and Dr. Viruli and many others who have joined us. And thank you for showing your commitment. Thank you for showing your collaboration and your cooperation for this wonderful, worthy endeavor. So research is something very, very critical for us, something very, very value-adding for us, and we can't do without research in taking data-driven decisions. So I'm very happy, sir, being our dynamic Vice Chancellor. You are a chemist, you are a scientist, you are a logical thinker. So we need that logical thinking rather than being overly emotional, impulsive in taking ad hoc decisions. We need to have that data-driven decisions in order to have that dynamism towards prosperity. So PIM is willing to contribute to the country prosperity through research as the nation's management mentor. So let me once again offer my sincere gratitude to all those who have joined now for the inauguration of PIMARC 2021. So may I wish all the deliberations this morning, this afternoon, and tomorrow evening a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri, co-chair of the PIM Annual Research Conference 2021. And thank you for sharing the journey of the PIM Annual Research Conference so far, and at the same time, reiterating and emphasizing on the importance of research in this modern business world. And as he very correctly said, research is about seeing what everybody else has seen, but thinking in a manner that no one else has been thinking in that unique manner, which is exactly what we aim to prepare you, the participants of this program, to be able to do by the end of these 2 days. Next in the agenda, I take great pleasure in welcoming yet another dynamic force behind the success of PIM, who is none other than the director of PIM, Dr. W.G.S. Callum. Dr. Callum is armed with over 2 decades of experience in university-level education management, and Dr. Callum has also served as a director of the World Bank-funded higher education projects of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura for over 10 years. He is a veteran in the field of knowledge creation, and he is acknowledged in the industry for his significant contribution to academia and value-based leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the director of PIM, Dr. W.G.S. Callum.
Thank you, Tarindu. Members of the head table, members who are joining physically and virtually for this inauguration session, very good morning to all of you. I wish you all the very best day for today's event. So it gives me an immense pleasure and honor to stand here as the director of this prestigious postgraduate management education institute to speak few words about our annual research conference, PIMARC 2021. Our Honorable Chief Guest, Senior Professor Sudhantha Liyanage, Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura and also the parent university of our PIM. Our keynote speaker, Professor Robert Pfaff, and also the Professor of Finance, and he's the inventor of the pitching research. Sir, thank you very much joining with us today morning virtually as a keynote speaker for this inauguration session. And our special guest, Professor P.D. Nimal, Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, and also EXCO member of the Board of Management of PIM. 2 very special guests who are joining with us virtually, They are the Sri Lankan ambassadors of the pitching research, Professor Vasantha Pereira and Professor Athulamana Waduge, both of them from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. All international and national panel members of this conference joining this session virtually as well as physically, organizing committee members, PIM staff, pitching research competitors, paper presenters, ladies and gentlemen, and also all the people who are joining through the virtual environment. PIMARC 2021 is officially organized to disseminate new knowledge created through the research and translate into the practitioners' language for the socio-economic development of the country. Furthermore, I think it is an open platform for our postgraduate students, especially for the PhDs, as well as the master students, to present their ongoing research work to the mass audience and get their valuable comments as well as the views regarding the further development of their studies. Considering the current economic challenges facing by the country, this year conference is designed under the theme of reflecting reality through the research. I believe the theme is timely, important for the country. PIMARC started, as Professor already mentioned, PIMARC started in 2019, and due to the COVID pandemic situation, unfortunately, we were not able to conduct this session during the last year. But in this year, we were able to host the conference again on the hybrid platform, considering the prevailing pandemic situation, as well as adhering to the health guideline issued by the government. So it is my responsibility to thank organizing committee member headed by the two co-chairs, Professor Dharmasiri and also the Dr. Nilakshi, and their team members for their hard work, dedication, and commitment towards to achieve this objective today without any problem. And also this year, the PIMARC 2021 especially adds the very special milestone as a PIM hosting the first ever national pitching research competition here in Sri Lanka. And in this competition, we will be selecting the best higher degree research student in presenting the best pitching template. Thanks to the Professor Vasantha and also Professor Athulamana Wagaduge's efforts. For this competition, PIM has invited the postgraduate students from the state sector universities to submit their pitching templates. We have also conducted several awareness programs as well as workshops to educate these candidates in collaboration with the country coordinators. I think we have received 15 templates, isn't that, Professor? We have 15 templates. Out of that, 6 finalists will make their final presentations today after this inauguration session. The winner of this competition were selected transparently by the international panel members joining from Australia, led by the inventor of the pitching research concept, Professor Robert. I take this opportunity to congratulate all the participants who are going to make their final presentation and wish them all the best for their final presentation. So being the country's pioneering postgraduate education institute, affiliated with the Sri Lankan largest university, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, PIM has endowed outstanding corporate leaders, business persons, and the scholars to the broad society for the last 35 years. Furthermore, PIM has shaped our postgraduates to face the immense challenges in the contemporary dynamic environment while being ethical and socially sensible to uplift the society for sustainable successes. From its inception, the PIM has been very active in creating a research-inspiring culture that enables our learning partners as well as the staff to engage in outstanding research work in the discipline of management. To further enrich this culture within the PIM, we have decided to take another step by awarding the research grants to our academic staff as well from next year, establishing the grant scheme. And also we are organizing this kind of research days, which provide the scholarly platform for the researchers to demonstrate excellent research work and share their expertise knowledge as they prepare for the leadership role in the businesses. This year, our 2-day program consists of National Pitching Research Competition, Dr. Roll Colloquium, research paper presentation done by the master students, and also the industrial dialogue. So coming back to the doctoral colloquium provides an excellent platform for the PhD students to share their current research ideas and obtain the in-depth feedback from the internationally renowned researchers and local scholars joining as a panel members for that session from Australia, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka to get the further improvements to their research work. And also our research session provide the master researchers with the forum for discuss their research ideas and articles and showcase how their research work can be applied to the industry. And also they will be able to get the in-depth feedback from the PIM staff members as well as the academics joining as from the local universities to improve their research work. It also consists of the industrial dialogue targeted for the knowledge translation, which provide the platform for the researchers and to the industry to have a business-related debates. Our paper presenters will able to get the opportunity to discuss the applicability of their research findings to the actual situations with the business leaders who are going to join with us tomorrow. I'm sure that this year annual conference will contribute to cultivating the research culture further among the Sri Lankan academics and practitioners, and also it initiate interaction among the researchers to exchange ideas to recent advances in the area of management. Last but not least, let me take the opportunity to thank our chief guest, keynote speaker, our special guests, and the conference co-chairs, track coordinators, panel members, reviewers, organizing committee members, and more specifically, the authors of their contribution in successful organizing and managing the annual research conference of the PIM PIMARC 2021. I also wish to thank all the participants who are joining this research conference on the online platform. While congratulating all the participants who are going to make their final presentation for the competition, National Pitching Research Competition, I wish the annual research conference of the PIM PIMARC 2021 to be a grand success. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalum, Director of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Sri Lanka. The words of the famous military strategist Sun Tzu, from whom many business lessons are indeed drawn today, where he said, a successful general is someone who is aware of what's going on in the ground. This echoes very well with the theme which our director mentioned a short while back, the theme for this year's PIM Annual Research Conference, which is reflecting on reality through research. As business leaders, as much as we may be drawn and pushed into making gut-based decisions, a quick reality check always helps to make the right business decisions. Thank you very much, Director, once again, for those very encouraging words and for empowering the organizing committee to conduct this event successfully this year. Next, I would like to invite the chief guest of this event, who is none other than the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, Senior Professor Sudanta Nage. And it is an extreme honor for me to introduce this very accomplished individual. Senior Professor Sudanta Liyanage is an evolutionary thinker, a dynamic personality, and one of the most experienced and astute administrators in the university system that has been appointed as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura by His Excellency the President, and assumed the duties on the 9th of September 2020. Professor Liyanage obtained his PhD from the Cardiff University of Wales, United Kingdom. He has obtained several postdoctoral qualifications from the Cardiff University of Wales, University of Adelaide, Australia, and the Ibaraki University in Japan. Thereby, his commitment to the development of this country goes beyond his services to the university and education. He is a key member of the Presidential Task Force since December 2019 and has provided significant input to the development of the electoral system of the country, and has also been appointed on a national level to aid in the development of the chemical industries in Sri Lanka. It is with extreme honor that I now wish to invite Senior Professor Sudanta Liyanage to address this gathering. Professor, over to you.
Ayubowan. Very good morning for everybody. The members of the head table, current director, Dr. Kalum, the former director, Professor Ajanta. So then our dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, Professor Nimal, and Dr. Nilakshi, who's the research coordinator at PIM, maybe. Yes. Today the keynote speaker, Professor Robert Fuff from the Bond University, Australia, one of the former vice chancellors of the University of Kelaniya, Professor Jayantha Vijayaratne. I'm very happy to see you here, sir. Now, I learned that you are the head of the Quality Assurance and Accreditation Center at PIM. It's a very important role. Thank you very much for your contribution, because you are a well-experienced personnel in the university system, especially regarding the quality assurance. Though both of us are coming from the field of science, so we also contributing to the university sector for managing and assure and maintain their quality in the university sector. And all the other colleagues at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, I think most of them are connecting through the Zoom or the virtual connections. I think there are about 28. What's the number? How many participants are through the Zoom? 30? 23. 23 members are connecting through Zoom, and there are many members are here. Thank you very much for being with us, and all the academic personnel at the PIM, the executive staff members, PIM, and all the non-academic staff members and the well-wishers. So I'm very happy to be here for your PIM Annual Research Conference. This name is very, very familiar to me, PIMARC, because when we are at the UK, there is a very popular clothing store. It's called PIMARC, because my wife used to go every Saturday to PIMARC to buy some clothes, right? So PIMARC now is maybe the difference is a C and K, right? PIMARC, and this is the second time you all are organizing this particular event. So I think the PIM, we basically place you all as the best graduate studies institute in Sri Lanka, especially in the management field. Though my dean is here, we are also running a MBA course, but that's up to the society to pick which one is better or which one is good. That's not my intention, but anyway, to my understand, I think you all are doing a great service to the country during last many years. When we were at the students at Sri Jayawardenepura, still I can remember one night, Professor Gunapal, at that time I think he was Dr. Gunapal Nanayakar, he came in a lorry and picked all the belongings to the PIM that was initially placed at the Vice Chancellor's Lodge. One night, he brought everything and he came to a different place. That's the initiation of the establishment of PIM outside the faculty. Now I think you all have spent more than 25 years in this, 35 years now. So that means you can understand how old I am, right? 35 years, and especially I think after Professor Gunapal Nanayakar, Dr. Kalum is the second person coming from the main university as a director to the PIM. That is also a very special thing, and that does not mean that you all have not done anything for us. But I'm very happy this special connection in between the University of Sri Jayawardenepura and the PIM has to be continued like that. And always during Professor Ajanta's time, he initiated this good relationship in between the PIM and the USJ. So now basically you all are dedicated for the postgraduate studies. Now, unlike those days, I think better than me, Professor Vijayaratne knows me very well. In 2013-14 years, I think we have started establishment of the Quality Assurance and Accreditation Council at the UGC. So then they have drafted many policies about the postgraduate institutions and the what we call as a Sri Lanka Qualification Framework. So when you go more than the scale 5, that means starting from scale 6, everybody has to do a research project. All these undergraduates, especially in the level, people who are exiting at the level 6. So they have to undertake a research project with the credit value of 6. But 7, 8 is a different levels. So then, especially when you are talking about the level of MSc, 2-year MScs and the MPhils and the PhDs, anyway, the PhD, of course, it's a research base. So you have to undertake a quality research project. What that means, it's a compulsory rule in the Sri Lanka Qualification Framework. Why that is important, to my understanding, is when you are doing a research project, so basically you build your own critical thinking. That's a very important thing. As Tarindu mentioned earlier, yes, this is under the new normal condition. We have to relearn most of our theories, most of our things, and we may have to think about some of our unlearned experience or the things during this particular time. So therefore, I think if you have this particular background, and if you can analyze anything, and you can critically think about that thing, I think you may in a better position to get a better solution for the most of the problem you all are facing. So ultimately, you have to pick the best solution out of all. Now, yesterday we were at the Presidential Secretariat. As you know, these days there's a huge problem with this fertilizer issue. We know that HE is basically asking whether if there is any possibility for a 100% green agriculture, 100% organic agriculture, but some people think that organic means something not chemical. Organic is something I don't know. It's all coming under chemistry, whether it's organic or inorganic, all chemicals. There's nothing called inorganic, only the inorganic materials are chemicals, but the organic materials are not chemical. No, that's all wrong. Even we are using a wrong term, there is a different story. So therefore, what he wants to go with the 100% biological, that is a correct term, nature, biological fertilizers rather than saying the organic fertilizers. But we know as a chemistry people or science people, you can't change that kind of a thing within a very short period of time. So therefore, at least for this what we call as the Mahakanya, we need some kind of a chemical fertilizers. Sometimes, especially these insecticides, fungicides, these kind of things are extremely important for this during especially this period. Especially the rainfall is very high, so therefore we may have to think about some other options when we are going for 100%. So somehow we managed to convince HE to at least allow some, not all, some chemical fertilizers and some fungicide, weedicides and insecticides has to be allowed during at least for this particular period. So that means that because of the I think 11 scientists basically get together, we write a proposal what we call as a roadmap for GAP. GAP means good agricultural practices, right? So that does not mean that we have to use all 100% biological fertilizers or what we call as organic fertilizers. You have to go for a hybrid system, at least for us, some period, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. So then only we can rethink about all our strategies. So I think most of the people are very happy about that particular decision, but some politicians and some people are not that happy by allowing some of chemical things to apply into the agricultural field. But that is very necessity and very necessary thing has to be done. Otherwise, definitely by in the March, April this year, we are going to have some issues with the food security. So all these things we have to analyze, we have to think, and we have to come up with many solutions, and we have to pick the best solution at the moment. So that's why I think as a management people, I'm always telling this is a pandemic period. So we don't know what is happening and how we are going to deal with this COVID-19. The scientists and the most of the medical personnel, so they are working very hard to find out the best vaccine for the COVID-19 pandemic. But the meantime, I think I'm always telling the management personnel, you have to come up with some new theories, new concepts and new policies, how you are going to manage this crisis situation. So I think most of our colleagues now, they are working very hard. and especially the human resource management. And when you are having this kind of a crisis, how you manage your human resources, how you manage the resources, not, they are limited now because of due to many reasons. So how you manage all things. So therefore, I think, because especially the postgraduate students or the graduate students I think they have done some research, and they are basically discussing some of their findings, some of their solutions. That is very important nowadays, because you also have a very vital role to play in these days. So most of the time when you are having some kind of a issue in the medical sector, or maybe some kind of a issue in the scientific sector, the scientists and the medical people are looking after. But now this is not just for one sector, this is for the entire world. I think everybody has to work on this particular issue. And especially I can see there are many people connecting through the Zoom or the virtual basis. That is an important thing. So because now we are here and anybody can connect with us, and they can give their ideas to our students and now to our speakers and everybody. So it's a kind of a nice mixing of knowledge when you are having this hybrid version of conferences. I think in a way, as an administrator, I'm very happy. Now the cost for the conference has drastically gone down. Otherwise, we have to spend a lot of money for hotels. We are spending a lot of money for the food, everything. Now that all these things have been basically now in the minimum level. I think as example, yesterday we started our graduate faculty conference. Usually we spend about 1.5 million for an inauguration only. But yesterday only 15,000 rupees. You just, though I'm a scientist, I'm just comparing these values. So I thought, my goodness, it's very good. So I think we have to continue this particular thing. It's in a way, it's a very, very good and advantage, because now like the people like Professor Robert Puff, so they can connect with us. I think you mentioned that there are many people who are in the Malaysia also, they are connecting with us. Look, the advantages, that is some kind of a unlearned thing, Taridu. So therefore, you all have to build all these things. So as administrators, what we can do here is we will give our fullest cooperation and fullest support for everything. And I hope the PIM will continue your good work in especially the field of management studies or the management, and you will provide more and more quality managers to this country. That is also extremely important and very needed for this country, because the Sri Lankan society is a very different society. Now, these days we are talking about these education reforms. So most of the people, they are coming up with some very good proposals, but we know that with our all experience, right, you can't implement everything within a week or within a 1 month. So Sri Lanka, if you really want to do a change, you have to do the change little by little. So then only our people or our society going to be accepted those changes. Otherwise, you can see there are a lot of civil unrest in this country, right? Sometimes, they are meaningless, but still these things are happening. So therefore, we are now talking about these education reforms. Though we have very beautiful, policies, we have imported from some other countries, and the many people wants to, fix those things into this country. I know that as a person, it won't, apply for this particular country. So we can import any ideas, that is fine, no problem at all. But you have to fine tune all these things, and you have to think about how these things are going to be fixed with our society, and how to, change all these things, and then that particular thing going to be very success story. Now, one example is our qualification framework. When I think during Professor Jayanth Vijayaratne and that particular team, they started, initiating this particular program. So there are a lot of resistance came from our friends. Usually the Sri Lankan university colleagues are, they are very conservative, I will say. So a lot of resistance came. Now everybody is accepted. Now that basically time taken for the qualification framework is more than now 7-8 years. Slowly we have implemented these things into our university system. Now everybody is looking for the Sri Lanka qualification framework, and they try to pitch the levels with the qualification framework, and people are very happy. Society is very happy. But now there is another missing link is there. That is the Quality Assurance and Accreditation Council has to be established. So that is a very, very critical thing. I think 2018, the previous government, they came up with some kind of a policy document that was totally rejected by at that time. So therefore now we have to reshape it. we had to redone it, and we have to get some experience from the lesson learned during 2018 thing, the parliament. So then all these any accreditation council. So that is the future of our education. That is a must rule. I believe. I don't know whether that is going to be under UGC or it's an independent body. Most of us believe it's an independent body, but some people think that that has to be comes under UGC. I don't know which one is the best. So we have to start more and more dialogue with the UGC and the prominent people, educationists in this country, and to establish whether it's as a very independent body. But in Sri Lanka, nobody is independent. That's a normal thing. No, that we have to understand. That's a Sri Lankan culture. Though we say we had independent of this and that and everything, but still they all having some connections with the people. So those are the things now we are thinking. But I think next year, most probably, I think this accreditation council bill might come into the parliament. I don't know. That's the same thing like the Kotalawala defense bill. So all are going to be very much similar ending. That I don't know. But I think these things are very important thing, and the education reforms are also going to be implemented from 2022 April, because now the school terms have been shifted to April 2022. We are going to start with 1 to 9 classes first. But to me, it is nothing new, sir. It's all credit-based system. We have implemented credit-based system in 1998, if I am correct, to all our Sri Lankan universities. Now we are thinking about how we are going to implement those things to the school level also. Whether this is a good system or bad system, that we don't know. For the university, sometimes I believe the normal term-based, year-based examination is 1,000 times better than the semester-based exams. Examination is better than the semester-based. But we like to continue with this semester-based thing because students are having something to do during the semester. So then we don't have many people on the road all the time. Examination system, that is also important. No? Otherwise, most of the time they are on the roads. So anyway, thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much. And I hope your research conference is going to be very successful one and very enjoyable one, and you will come up with good the new solution for most of the problems we are having, especially in the field of management. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senior Professor Sudanta Linage, for enlightening us on some of the new developments which are taking place, and also, once again, reiterating and emphasizing on the importance of scientific thinking in this modern business world. After all, 21st century business leaders are expected to have an awareness about scientific thinking, and some of the modern developments such as design thinking and so on truly emphasize the importance of this as well. Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. We truly appreciate your presence here as well, despite an extremely busy schedule. Next, we are moving into the launching of the E-Proceedings. In other words, once again, in a new normal, instead of published proceedings for a research conference, what we have is the launching of an E-Proceedings, the booklet of this PIM Annual Research Conference. And so you might know that once again, it's one of the new developments we see in a virtual academic world as well. And to carry out this endeavor, once again, I would like to invite the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Senior Professor Sudanta Linage, to simply launch the E-Proceedings. And now, to recognize and appreciate the presence of Senior Professor Sudanta Linage with us today, I would like to invite the Director of PIM, Dr. W.G.S. Callum, to hand over a special token of appreciation. Sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we will be fortunate to be addressed by the special guest of this inauguration ceremony, who is none other than Professor P.D. Nimal, the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Prior to his appointment as the Dean of the mentioned faculty, Professor P.D. Nimal was the head of the Department of Finance at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. And having graduated with a BSc Special in Business Administration with the first class from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, he obtained 2 MBA degrees, one from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, welcome back home, sir, and also from the Shiga University of Japan. He obtained his PhD from the Shiga University of Japan in 2006. He has authored numerous publications in specialized fields in the discipline of finance. Additionally, he holds many consultancies, including being a member of the Index Governance Committee of the Colombo Stock Exchange since 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for a special address by the special guest of this morning's proceedings, Professor P.D. Nimal.
Very good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Chief guest, Senior Professor Sudanta Liyanage, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and today's keynote speaker, Professor Robert Pfaff, joining us from Australia, and Director PIM, Dr. W.S. Callum, so one of our faculty members, and co-chairs of the conference, Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri, the former director of the PIM, and Dr. Galahitiawa from the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce. So I am proud to be here with you all, and committee members of the conference, and Professor Vijayaratna and other faculty members of the PIM, and administrative staff members and non-academic members. And ladies and gentlemen who are joining physically today as well as through the virtual platform. First, I would like to express my gratitude to the Director PIM, Dr. Callum, and co-chairs of the PIM Annual Research Conference for giving me this opportunity as the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce to speak a few words today in this inauguration ceremony. The Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, as you know, is the largest and most sought after management faculty in Sri Lanka, and is considered as the center of excellence in management education in Sri Lanka. I am proud to be here as one of the MBA holders of PIM. And on the other hand, as the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, which started postgraduate studies in management at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura way back in about 60 years back, and which is later elevated to an separate institute by the founding director, Professor Gunapala Nanayakar. With great honor, I would like to recall the commitment and the contribution made by Professor Gunapala Nanayakar to bring this institute to the level it is today. The PIM produces professional managers to both local and global industries, as well as through these types of research conferences. The PIM engages in many research activities that provide insights and solutions to many issues faced by the industries. So as you know, I am in fact accept the fact that management research is not up to that level when you compare that with other disciplines. So PIM as well as our faculty has resources. Now we are in the, I think, in the correct path. so we can improve the research contribution to the nation. So I hope that everybody will work towards that end. And the theme of the conference today is reflecting reality through research. So as an academic in the field of finance, today I would like to speak a few words on the reality of financial markets or financiers. The market, everybody knows, or the market economy, in simple terms, believes that the competition between demand and supply forces would push the market towards the equilibrium condition or to the efficiency. The question is, in fact, I would like to raise that has the market mechanism pushed the financial markets towards its expected role? The expected role of financial markets is creating wealth for the economy and nation. Has it happened in the real world? Is a question that we got to ask. So let us look at simple example from the Sri Lankan context. With the automation and electronic or digital and online systems introduced to the finance industry, the cost of financial institutions has been reduced to a great extent. Due to the automation and digitalization of the financial institutions, today they need less space, less branches, less people, less workers, and less executives. Thus, the cost has been reduced drastically. However, it is a question whether the benefit is transferred to the people or the customers. The spread between the deposit rate and the lending rate is almost similar to that of the past. One may question that has the market mechanism or competition addressed these issues? It is clear. The reality is that they are trying to extract wealth from the customers. The market has not resolved the issue in the real world. With this background, I would like to highlight some of the thoughts of Nicholas Saxon, which I fully endorse and agree with. Nicholas Saxon wrote a book in 2018. The title of the book is The Finance Curse: How Global Finance is Making Us All Poorer. In his book, he says that in the era of financialization, the corporate bosses and their advisors and the financial sector has moved away from creating wealth for the economy and have moved towards extracting wealth from the economy using financial techniques. He further says that the concept of finance curse is that once a financial sector grows above an optimal size and beyond its useful roles, it brings to harm the country that hosts it. Finance turns away from its traditional role of serving society and creating wealth and move towards often more profitable activities to extract wealth from other parts of the economy. It also becomes politically powerful. You can imagine the power of the financial sector. And it starts shaping laws, rules, and even the society. The consequences include lower economic growth, inefficient markets, damage to public service, worse corruption, the hollowing out or dig out of alternative economic sectors, and widespread damage to the democracy and society. Further, he says that the inequality of income distribution gets increased due to the dominance of financiers. So that is evident in Sri Lanka as well as in the USA. If I just quote the Sri Lankan figures, in 1990, the Gini index, which is the measure of income inequality, when it lies between 0 to 100, when it is closer to 100, the income inequality is greater. So in 1990, it was 32.4%, and 2019 it is 39.8%. You can see the increase, 7.4% higher than to 1990. So the income inequality has increased. Thus, the inequality has increased. This is the reality. This is the reality. So market has not done the justice. Even if you look at some issues related to some of the other sectors in the Sri Lankan market that we have experienced recently, look at the rice market. Almost rice is produced from the all parts of the country by the farmers, and everybody eats rice in Sri Lanka. But see, only few rice producers or mill owners control the rice market. And you can see that in the LP gas or sugar, the milk powder, fertilizer for that matter, as Professor Sudanta mentioned. So this is the case. The reality is that the market has not done the justice. So imagine the power of these organizations. They are powerful than the political hierarchy and the government. They control everybody. They control all the sectors of the society and damage the well-being of the people of the country. This is the reality. Therefore, it is timely topic that is reflecting reality through research and come up with solutions to address these real issues. Some of the possible questions that one could raise are, is it greediness of people? If so, how do you control the greediness? Is it the lack of policies, rules, or regulations, or political will? Is it lack of systems? So we as managers or professionals in management field, academics as well as professional, I think we have a big role to play in the market. So we must deliberate on these real issues and provide some amicable solutions to serve the people of the country. Therefore, I earnestly urge all of you to have a serious debate on these real issues. So finally, I would like to thank you for listening and hope that you all, the participants, either on site or online, will have fruitful discussions and deliberations on your research findings. So again, I would like to thank Dr. Callum and the co-chairs of the conference and the PIM members for inviting me in this occasion. So I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor P. Nimal, for those wise words and indeed making us critically evaluate, even in that within the words of that short speech, whether the market system has really worked. These are, I believe, burning questions which all these young minds, the established minds of the academic and the professional working sector needs to examine, address in the upcoming weeks and months, and address some of the key issues that the local and global economy is facing. Thank you very much, sir, for encouraging us to think in that critical but vital direction. Next, it is time to hear the keynote speech by a very special individual, who is none other than Professor Robert Pfaff from the Bond Business School of the Bond University, Australia. Professor Robert Pfaff, who is also very interestingly known as the pitch doctor, who has obtained his education at the Australian National University and is currently a professional fellow at the Bond University and an emeriti professor of finance at the University of Queensland Business School. He has also served as the professor of finance at the University of Monash, currently serves as the vice president of the European Institute for Advanced Studies of Management, and has served as the BARDS Net Chair from 2016 to 2017. Professor Pfaff has an international reputation in empirical finance research, securing more than 14 Australian Research Council grants, with a total funding of which exceeds $4 million. With over 340 plus referred journal publications, 18,000 plus career citations, and with an H index of 67. His particular passion is nurturing the career trajectories of early career researchers, and Professor Pfaff has supervised over 50 PhD students towards successful completion and have examined more than 50 PhD dissertations and has built on a 40+ year academic career. And his signature focus is on pitching research. With over 400+ pitching talks and 37 and in presence of in more than 37 Australian universities spanning over 54 different countries. He has been contributing his work towards this pitching research concept. He is further the founder and president of the Inspire to ES Research Network, which is a globally facing research network primarily aimed at research training and capacity building, resting on a foundation theme of responsible science. In addition, Professor Pfaff is the editor-in-chief of the Pacific Basin Finance Journal and formerly the editor of Accounting and Finance and associate editor of several leading journals, including Abacus and the Australian Journal of Management. His array of skills encompasses leadership development, university teaching, public speaking, accounting, economics, corporate finance, and valuation. With that illustrious introduction, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the keynote speaker of this morning, who is none other than Professor Robert Pfaff. Professor Robert, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for those kind words of introduction. It is indeed a great pleasure and an honour for me to have this opportunity to give you a short keynote address. I know we're running a little behind time, so I'll try to keep my words short and clear. I'm sharing my screen right now, so hopefully the slide that you can see displayed is the opening slide for my talk, which has in green Responsible Science Matters, and the background is a photograph of Bond University, a truly beautiful campus, and I certainly recommend in times of the future when we can travel again, you should visit our university. It's a small university, but it's a truly glorious and very pretty university. So the topic that I want to talk to you about is responsible science. And as you would have noticed in the introduction, this is the foundation stone of the network that I've created this year. And already we have over 800 members of this network spanning 78 countries and jurisdictions. So it's a very important topic. And it's one that all researchers should know something about. And more than that, they should try to make sure, as researchers, we should move ourselves closer to the ideals of being responsible scientists. So in this very brief talk, and indeed the slides I'm working off are a truncated version of a much bigger set of slides I sent through some time ago, so it fits better the short time period. But we're going to first of all think a little bit about what is science. Then I want to transition to the topic of what is responsible science. And then finally, I want us to think about the matters that relate to responsible science. So what is science? Well, I don't wish to go down the path of a formal definition. All I would like to do today is give you some broad ideas, I think, of the flavor of, at least from my point of view, what science is about. And quite a number of the speeches we've already heard this morning basically are hitting right on at the heart of science or research. So if you hear science, I suggest that you immediately think, well, that is another way of talking about research, or research equals science. And what's science and research all trying to do? It's trying to tell us something about knowledge. In fact, it's trying to help us build on knowledge, to create new knowledge. Now, the term research can be loosely applied, particularly outside of research institutions. So universities are always very careful when they talk about research. But if we think of everyday situations in the media, research can be a term that's used in our view very loosely and very incorrectly. So when I talk about research, not only is it science, knowledge creation. It's really scholarly research that we have in mind. So we need to think about the nature of scholarly research. And I have on this slide a very simple description that I take from our local research council, the Australian Research Council. There will be very similar descriptions, I think, in your jurisdiction, in fact, all jurisdictions around the world. So I'm simply referring to this one because it's easy for me to access, not necessarily because I believe it's the best, although I think it is a very good one. And you can see that the extract says the research is about the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, inventions, and understandings. Now, it also includes synthesis and analysis of previous research to the extent that it is new and creative. And I've highlighted a few words that are repeated there because they are critical and they are ones that we should carry in our minds to give us a very easy access, at least easy at a superficial level, of what research is about. It's about newness or novelty. The word new appears 4 times. As I've already emphasized, it's about knowledge and it's about creativity or creating new knowledge. So if all of that we've said so far is science, is research related, what does the word or the concept or the modifier responsible add to that understanding? So what is responsible science? Well, one of the guiding lights for me, but it's by no means the only source of insight, but one that I find very useful, although the community for responsible research in business and management has a lot of ideas, not all of which I totally agree, but I think there's much to be learnt from this community. They've given a vision that they think business schools worldwide, and I guess scholars generally, research scholars generally should strive for. They've chosen 2030, which is quite a common timeline for various goals these days, and that they hope that by that time, we have a future in which business schools and scholars worldwide have successfully transformed their research toward responsible science, producing useful and credible knowledge that addresses problems important to business and society. So the 2 key elements that they emphasize, and I totally agree, are that when we do research and we claim that it's scientific, it's creating knowledge, first of all, that is credible, and secondly, that it's useful. Now, for me, those 2 are fantastic pillars to link to responsible science, but I would stress a 3rd pillar, and that is independence. So we have responsible science that is marked by research that is credible. We have responsible science that is marked by relevance, and we have responsible science that is thirdly marked by independence. So another way of describing each of those pillars is if we're thinking of credible research, we want to deliver reliable knowledge. If we're thinking about relevant research, we want to deliver, we should strive to deliver useful knowledge. And if we're thinking about the independence of our research, then a good way of thinking of that is that we should strive and hope to deliver unbiased knowledge. Now, I think it's interesting that there's always much complexity and tension below the surface. So what I've said so far, if you take that at face value, it's probably easy to agree, and maybe you can be hypnotized into thinking well, the world should be an easy place, but it's not. The reality is there's so many issues and challenges that get in the way of responsible science. Now, to start us thinking about this slide suggests that, well, I would suggest it's like a tug of war. There's a tug of war between passion on one side and objectivity on the other. And as responsible scientists, or at least striving towards that goal, the way I would try and deal with this tug of war, this tension, is to advise an early career researcher, a novice researcher, passion is good, provided it's all about the question. But we need to be objective about the answer. So where I worry with new PhD students, with early career researchers, they have the passion, good. But I worry the passion is too much about the answer, or at least the answer that they believe to be true before they've even done any research, before they've collected the evidence. And as one of our speakers this morning emphasised, in fact, I think it was the Vice Chancellor, but one of the notable speakers said, we must rely on data or evidence-based research. So the data must inform us. And really, I would stress that the data can be difficult to interpret. So it's the evidence that we get from the data based on inferences that we can reliably draw. So let us now move to the third part of my keynote speech, and that is to think about, well, what are the matters? What are the things that are important on the landscape that I guess in a way are going to present us with difficulties or challenges trying to achieve responsible science? So one thing to set this up very briefly are a few suggestions, and this list is not exhaustive, but just trying to, from my point of view, bring you to where my view is around the hallmarks of responsible science. So if we're doing responsible science, it should be good science. It should involve a true contest of ideas. Responsible science should avoid twisted and contorted narratives. Now, we should always be suspicious, at least a healthy skepticism around research which twists and turns as it describes the evidence, because there comes a point when the twists and the turns are too contorted and one must start to question, is this really evidence of responsible science? Responsible science should give a genuine recognition of the fact, in my view, the science is never settled. In fact, the phrase the science, in my view, and this could be controversial to you, the science is not a good phrase to use because it presupposes some greater knowing for which an individual at a point in time cannot have. The science is never settled. There is no emotion about science. So be skeptical, not only when you hear someone refer to the science, but if they become very emotional about their research, particularly about the outcome and the results before they have done the analysis. There should be no bullying in any area of society, particularly with science and research. So responsible science should not have any element of bullying. There should be no advocacy. And as I've already said, the question is paramount. The answer is what it is. Now, one way of viewing that there's some issue happening that is out there that makes responsible science a topic we should take notice of is the suggestion that we are living through a crisis, a research crisis. Now, this is nothing to do with the pandemic. That is another crisis, and that's one that we still need to work ourselves out of. This research crisis that I'm referring to is much more general. And let me give you 3 angles on the potential for why many scientists, many researchers worldwide in all fields, and probably a growing number, are becoming more open to the idea there is a crisis. The first angle is the potential for a publication bias. Now, in my field of finance and in many journals and areas that I'm aware of, I worry and have continued to worry, and I'm not the only one, that journals seem to be very biased towards publishing statistically significant results. And I'm worried that there are many very high quality papers that are done that tell us something new. They give us knowledge that we should be aware of, but they do not have statistical significance and they are not published. And so as new research students come forward, the natural tendency is to be guided by what is published. And I think there needs to be a recognition that it's very likely in a lot of fields, there is an underlying potential bias in that research, in that science. The second angle on this potential crisis is around growing evidence that existing studies, quite often very notable and in leading studies, cannot be replicated. So this issue of replication fails. Now, we do not have time to do anything but scratch the surface on this, but I put it to you that a world in which we have serious doubts about some of the major studies that are in the best journals, if we have serious doubts that they can be replicated, that must place a big question mark in our minds, and we should have a healthy skepticism about existing research. And we need to think about how we can try and resolve that problem as well as the publication bias problem. The third one that I quickly mentioned is my observation is, given all the circumstances and the ecosystem and the incentives, there seems to be a movement towards what I would call weird science, but I don't have I don't have time to go into that in detail. So what are the solutions? Well, if there was a simple solution, I think we would see less of the problem. And if I had all the solutions, I would be a very, very famous person, but I'm not. So in the next 5 or so minutes, I just want to give you a flavor of how we might navigate our way towards solutions around these elements of crisis that will over time get us both individually and as a collection of research scientists closer to responsible science. So one thing that might come to mind is, well, we need key stakeholders to be visionary, to be brave. So we had the Dean give a speech earlier this morning, and imagine the Dean decides, hey, I really am persuaded by this idea that we need more responsible science. And the Dean goes away and works with his team to come up with some new strategies and initiatives that head in that direction. Problem is, quite a number of those will go in quite serious conflict with what would be seen on the face of it by the external world to be reducing the reputation of that business school. And no dean, or very few deans, are willing to take that risk. And I don't blame them, because you don't want to be a loner taking a charge when everyone else is not. Visionary editors, there are, they can, and editors can try and take a stand, for example, with the replication bias, the replication fail, I should say. Journals could start to publish more replications. And the problem with that is it can have a very negative effect on the reputation of the journal, because those in the field, the leaders in the field, can easily make arguments about why is the journal wasting its time publishing replications, when in fact you could make the case that this is really important. So a lone journal editor doing this, it can be very dangerous. So possible actions by editors could be to publish replications. They could take on what is known as a pre-registration process, which essentially is to invite research plans, detailed research protocols, and judge the research idea and the protocol prior to seeing the evidence. And if they like what they see and it's being reviewed in a different way to what we currently know and understand, that could be given an in principle accept, where the research team then goes off and does and executes the study according to protocol. If it's statistically insignificant, that doesn't matter. However, being an in principle accept, it may still be possible that it's not published. Okay, let me skip over a few things. What can be done by university leaders? And if we go back to deans and research deans, the one that I've got highlighted here is more research training. And this is part of what underpins the Inspires network that has been mentioned in the introduction for my keynote talk. So what we're trying to do is build on responsible science, which is the topic of this keynote, and develop resources and help to all far corners of the globe around research training and capacity building. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And over the coming years, we're going to be pouring more and more effort into that. Now, as individual scholars, research scholars, what can we do? Well, tread carefully. While the system is as it is, you will not be rewarded for being a visionary research scholar. However, we should all gradually make sure we're heading towards being responsible scientists. And I've highlighted three things that you might think about at the bottom of this slide. So the first, and it's sort of a theme for the other two, but the first is to more and more think about how you can embrace a front-end holistic planning of your research. In other words, try and plan as much as possible the way you're going to go about doing research, and the pitching research framework, which is something we'll transition to the competition after the break. The pitching research framework is a great enabler for this front-end holistic planning. Proactively pitch research whenever the opportunity arises, and look for opportunities where, and this is my prediction for the future, more and more researchers will begin to embrace pre-registration of their research plans. So where to from here? And I'll round up my keynote now so that we're not too far over time. But as I said, the Inspires Network, the International Society of Pitching Research for Responsible Science, is focused on research training and capacity building. And as many of you will know, we have launched a global pitching research competition, and it's very exciting for me to be involved after the break with essentially the first country-based arm of that competition which is based obviously out of Sri Lanka. And I'm very pleased to acknowledge and thank Pim for giving us the forum and the profile and the opportunity to have this event front and center of the PIMARC conference this year. So as a sort of way of quickly describing that competition, so we have, I think, around 20 coordinated country settings. So one of those is Sri Lanka. So they are represented in this diagram through C1, C2, C3. So for example, C1, you can think of as Sri Lanka. And from each of those coordinated countries, there will be a winner. So at the end of today's proceedings, we will know the winner from Sri Lanka. And that winner will then go into the semi-final pool. Now in that semi-final pool, there will be around about 30 semi-finalists. And sometime around April next year, I will convene an international judging panel to judge based on the written pictures, those semi-finalists, such that we can get our top 6 into the grand final. And that will be an online event for which you're all very warmly invited to attend in late May next year. Now, to round off my keynote, let me share with you my bigger vision for all of this. What I plan and hope to do, firstly at Bond University, and hopefully next year, so this hasn't happened yet, but this is my goal, to create a centre or an institute for responsible science that pulls together many of the things that I've mentioned today in far more detail, of course. And then through this centre or institute, I'm hoping to reach out through the network, including through back into Sri Lanka, and who knows, maybe through the auspices of PIM, to see whether we can have mirror centres or institutes for responsible science in key locations around the world, so that we can reinforce the alliance and this movement and this ability to do good, particularly for novice and early career researchers in locations around the world where things are not easy, whether the resources are limited, where the mentors are limited, where the training is limited. This Institute of Responsible Science can help deliver that, deliver it in scale, deliver it in quality, so that we can improve research and bring the next wave of researchers into the fold, so that they deliver knowledge that is reliable, useful, and independent. In other words, that we have new knowledge that accords with responsible science principles. There's a range of resources I could refer you to. I'm happy to share these slides. I think these resources were listed in the earlier slides I sent through. But with that, I thank you. I'm not sure that there's any time for questions. Again, I wish you well for the PIMARC 2021 conference, and I'm very excited after the break to engage with your local national competition to see the 6 finalists deliver their oral pitches. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Robert Pfaff, for those very inspiring words indeed. And as you very correctly said, be passionate about the question, but be objective for the answer. No matter how bitter the truth may be, the truth is what, at the end of the day, shall set all of us free from the problems that we may be facing, be it in life or in business. And as you very correctly mentioned, the focus of research should be creating credible, useful knowledge for the business sector. And I believe, Professor Pfaff, that this resonates very well with the vision for the PIM Annual Research Conference as well, which is to reflect on the reality through good research. Thank you very much for your words, Professor Webb, and I'm sure we will be hearing more from you throughout the course of the day. Next, I would like to invite the Director of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Dr. W.J.S. Callum, to hand over a token of appreciation to the special guest we have with us today, Professor P.D. Nimal. Let's not allow all the talk of science forget us the cultural values of our nation. And indeed, gratitude is a key feature of the Sri Lankan culture. Hence, the vote of thanks takes a very important place in our agenda. And to deliver the vote of thanks, it is my extreme pleasure to now invite the conference co-chair, Dr. Nilakshi Galahitiava. Dr. Nilakshi Galahitiava is a senior lecturer attached to the Department of Decision Sciences of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. She is also the head of research and the coordinator of the Research Center at the Postgraduate Institute of Management. She obtained her MSc in Management from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura and her PhD from the University of Malaya. Her area of teaching and research specialization includes operations management and service management. Dr. Nilakshi Galahitiava, the forum is yours, madam.
Thank you, Taradu. A very good morning to all of you. Director PIM, Dr. Senaka Kalamgamage, distinguished keynote speaker, Professor Robert Pfaff from Bondi University, Australia, Professor P.D. Nimal, the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Professor Vasantha Pereira, and Professor Atula Manavaduge, the country coordinators of Global Pitching Research Competition, all invited guests who have joined via Zoom, distinguished academic staff, administrative staff, and other PIM colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to have been given the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on the inauguration ceremony of PIM Annual Research Conference, PIMARC 2021. I, on behalf of the organizing committee, would like to extend our richly deserved gratitude to the chief guest of the event, Senior Professor Sudhantha Liyanage, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. We are honored and obliged that Professor Liyanage has graciously accepted our invitation to be the chief guest despite being extremely busy, and also for the timely acknowledgement on the role of research in uplifting the societal development. Further, on behalf of the organizing committee of PIMARC 2021, may I offer our sincere gratitude to the Director of PIM, Dr. Senaka Kalamgamage, for his continuous encouragement, effective engagement, and leadership provided throughout this process. I, on behalf of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and on my own behalf, extend a very sincere vote of thanks to the keynote speaker, Professor Robert Pfaff. We are very honored and pleased that you courteously accepted our invitation to be the keynote speaker, and also for the inspiring and memorable keynote address delivered about responsible science matters. Moreover, you have provided us all the facilities and guidance to conduct the National Pitching Research Competition in Sri Lanka 2021. We are also happy to declare our heartiest thanks to Professor P.D. Nimal, the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and he also a member of Board of Management, PIM, Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us and for your inspiring speech delivered. Next, permit me to mention our sincere appreciation to Professor Vasant Pereira and Professor Atula Manavaduge, the country coordinators of Global Pitching Research Competition. They continuously collaborated with us and Professor Robert Pfaff in organizing Sri Lanka's first ever national pitching research competition. Dear sirs, thank you for the brilliant service rendered to link PIM with internationally recognized body. Pitching research competition made PIMARC more meaningful and more colorful. Further, I would like to extend a very big thank to Dr. Itisham Malik from Queensland University, Australia, for sharing his experience in organizing a country-level competition. May I take this opportunity to thank all the international and local panelists who will be participating for the doctoral colloquium, research sessions, and industry dialogue. Also, we would like to extend our sincere thanks to all paper presenters for their all paper reviewers for their constructive comments. You all have provided us a priceless service. There are about 30 participants or more than 30 participants we have invited to the Zoom link for the inauguration session and virtually. And thank you very much for joining with us today. We hope that you will actively participate in to share your insights and in the different events of PIMARC and enjoy an immensely rewarding experience. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would also like to convey a very big thank to our administrative staff, including Mr. Jayant Ranapura and Mr. Maitri Peramuna and their team for their immense support provided. We, organizing committee, also would like to pay our sincere thanks to the IT team and the hosting team for facilitating the event broadcast online. The organizing committee conveys a very big thank to Mr. K.A. Kalyanratne for editing the E-Proceedings, Mr. Chamal Disanayaka for designing the E-Proceedings, and Mr. Prabhash Wickramasinghe for designing all the promotional materials for the event, which are creative and informative. Well, an event like this cannot happen overnight. We're blessed with a team of motivated, result-oriented, and dedicated colleagues. Dear Dr. Callum, you have given us the correct team. I would thank you again for assigning the correct team for PIMARC 2021. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. I thank you very much, PIMARC 2021 team. I believe that we made a well-known motto, together we can till we share our learning and learn from our sharing. Thank you very much. Finally, I would like to congratulate all researchers, those who are presenting today and tomorrow. Especially would like to extend a sincere thanks to the participants from different universities for their valuable contribution and active participation for the National Pitching Research Competition. I hope this event will help all the presenters to upgrade their knowledge in order to bring socially impactful research. That is what our intention at last. Last not but least, we also express a very big thank to Mr. Tharindu Amarasekara for lively and enthusiastic comparing of the entire PIMARC 2021. Thank you very much. Have a fruitful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nilakshika Hetiya, conference co-chair of PIMARC 2021. Indeed, fruitful research that will assist in solving some of the modern 21st century business and leadership related problems is our intention throughout this entire program. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the conclusion of the inauguration ceremony, but this is not the end, but rather just the beginning. And we will see you soon at 10:30 a.m. for the commencement of the much eagerly anticipated and awaited National Pitching Research Competition 2021. And for those of you who are gathered here today physically, we have organized some refreshments at the cafeteria. Do join us there. And for all of those who are joining us virtually, we will see you soon with the National Pitching Research Competition 2021. Thank you very much.